Welcome to European Railway in Retrospect, issue number 2. In this programme, we study archive diesel activity in Portugal, as the country prepares to celebrate 60 years of diesel locomotive traction. Renowned Portugal railway commentator and photographer David Clough has spent the past 15 years detailing and capturing on film the various locomotive classes at work. As well as his photographic equipment, David and his wife Jo also took along their video camera to capture this now historic action. This programme brings together just some of his never-seen-before private collection as a tribute to Portuguese diesel traction. We sampled the principal classes of locomotive in the different sections contained within this programme, and we begin with one of the French designs, the 1200s. Delivered between 1961 and 1964, the class were based on the French BB 63000 lightweight diesels, and totaled 25 in number. The last member of the class was taken out of traffic in 2002, whilst 12 have subsequently been sold to Argentina, with actual deliveries still ongoing. Seen here is Celebrity Blue number 1204, departing Évora on 24th of June 2000 with the 1419 train for Casabranca. At Arm Oreiras Odemira, 1205 heads the 625 all-station stopping service from Barreiro to Tunes. The date is 30th of March 1998. With the town of Elvas in the background, this is Caia, as 1217 powers the international train, a service from Abrantes to Badajoz. The date is 27th of June 1999. On 19th of March 1995, a member of the class is seen at Barreiro, shunt releasing a Class 1930 diesel, which had just arrived from Faro. The class were also employed on light freight duties. Here at Casabranca, number 1205 manoeuvres wagons around the yard. At Pereiras, another class member is seen in charge of the 625 Barreiro to Tunes stopper, this time on 4th of April 1998. '24 departs Tunes with a service for Largos, this time on 3rd of April. In our final scene of the 1200 class in action, we are at Faro, where the line to Villarreal San Antonio briefly runs adjacent to the sea, making for some great photographic opportunities. This is east of the station, with the narrow harbour entrance just visible under the track. The 18 Class 1320 ALCOs were bought second-hand from Spanish railways during 1989, mainly to work freight in the south of the country. The survivors lingered until 1999, 1322 in departmental use, whilst 1331 became the Posero depot loco for shunting alpha pendular sets during commissioning. At Barreiro's Terra Yard, number 1327, shows off its clag producing qualities whilst heading for the depot on 11th of July 1996. Catching the locos on film during their final years was rare. Passing Piaero amid the sandy Alentejo landscape on 24th of March 1997 is this example seen on fly ash empties for Sinesh Power Station. On railtour duties, number 1327 departs Villa Viçosa in typical ALCO fashion as it heads east towards Estremoz. A rare scene here at Port Alegre is of a train coming off the Estremoz branch, with number 1327 adding that extra touch of spice. Time to turn up the clag dial a bit more now, as this pair depart Funchera with a set of wagons containing sand as fill material for the pyrites mine at Niveshkovo. Top marks for David in keeping the camera as steady as he did. Following the train was easy, you just had to follow the black exhaust trails. Our final scene shows the pair crossing the E802 road just outside of Castro Verde on the Neves-Corvo branch, which incidentally has since been electrified. One of the most popular classes of diesel working in Portugal are the English Electric Class 1400, a design based on the successful British Rail Class 20. Quite a few still remain in traffic, with others either withdrawn or sold on to Argentina, whilst only 1408 of the British-built batch survives. We begin this section in the north of the country, as 1444 and 1442 head across Douro Viaduct with the 1237 Valença to Gaia on 14th of September 2006. On the windy northwest coast at Ancora, 1449 hurries south with the São Pedro da Torre to Gaia cement empties on 23rd of September 2002. The following morning, the loaded train heads north behind 1436. One of the best known routes for the class was on the Douro Valley route, between Porto and Pocinho. Here, blue liveried 1424, one of two painted in original colours to mark the 50th anniversary of diesels in 1998, departs Regua on 11th of September 2003 with the 755 Porto to Pocinho. Douro Valley line offers some great photographic opportunities, such as in this view of British-built 1404 crossing Freixo do Namao Viaduct, not far from Pocinho, with the 755 from Porto on 30th September 2003. The 1 in 70 climb between Mosdeiro and Juncal meant that single-class 1400s were limited to 7 coaches. On 10th September 2006, number 1411 battles agreed at Parla Viaducts, with the 1755 Regua to Porto. With electrification of the Barreiro local trains in December 2008, DMUs were cascaded to Porto, and so the 1400s disappeared from the Douro Valley turns, although 1413 and 1422 remain owned by the Longo Curso passenger sector for reserve use. This is Ferrao, as 1408 leaves with the 1303 service from Regua to Pocinho. This is Ferradosa, as 1416 departs east with a Pocinho-bound train. Finally, on the Douro Valley line, we see 1411 departing Tua with the 1706 to Porto on 24th of June 2001. Note the red and white Schindler passenger stock that makes up the train. This type of coach was mostly all withdrawn by 2005. In this view, on 11th of July 1996, one of Barreiro's 1400s storms past Barreiro Terra Yard with a train for Setúbal. One of Portugal's international trains, which has now been withdrawn, is seen here departing the Spanish border town of Bombardier-built. The train in question, the 1425 to Abrantes, was effectively a local service. By February 2003, the 1400s had taken over the passenger diagrams from the Class 1200, which had all been withdrawn when this picture of number 1431 was taken near Caia on 1st of February 2003. We are in the far south of the country now, and 1422 departs the station at Faro with the 1440 to Lagos. Moving to the Western Line now, on the route between Figueira da Foz and the Lisbon suburbs. Number 1412 departs Montreal station with a 1519 between Figueira da Foz to Caldas da Rainha on 17th September 2003. Finally, at Martin Gansa, 1412 again heads the same service, but this time 3 days earlier. 1500 and 1520 classes are almost exactly the same in technical specifications and appearance, and were designed and built by the American Locomotive Company in New York State. The 1500s date from 1948, whilst the 1520s from 1951. A combined total of 17 were built. A heavy axle load restricted the routes on which they could be used. They lasted out their days in passenger and freight in the central and southern parts of the country. 5 locos have since been purchased by various contractors for use on engineering trains. For several decades, all were allocated to Barreiro Depot, where we see our first example, Class Doyen 1501, running light onto the shed. At Barreiro Terra Yard, on 16th of July 1996, 1501 again is seen in charge of the 1035 Barreiro to Praias Sardo. For the 50th anniversary celebrations of diesels in Portugal in 1998, 1524 was painted in green and silver livery. Here the loco crosses the viaduct at Zambujal, with the 0835 Barreiro to Funchera. With a bunch of kids up to no good, a 1500 drifts into Pineal Nova from their east with a train for Barreiro. There were 12 class 1500s built, whilst the 1520s numbered just 5 examples. Both types received extensive overhauls, including new 2000 horsepower power units in the mid-1970s. This member of the class slows for the stop at Alios Vedros, with a Praias Sardo local. As a thunderstorm broods, this example departs Casabranca with a Barreiro to Beja passenger turn on 22nd of March 1997. At Beja, 1521 leaves with its train bound for Barreiro in May 1996. Class 1520 number 1524 received its original 1952 paint scheme of green and silver for the 50th anniversary celebrations in 1998. This locomotive is now part of the National Collection, based at the museum in Entroncamento. The loco is seen heading the 1714 Barreiro to Funchera at Zambujal. Our final scene also comes from the Setúbal docks area, this time at Cacafera, as another example departs with the local service from Praia Sada to Barreiro on 23rd of March 1997. The 1900s and 1930s are virtually the same locomotive type, except that the 1930s have electric train heating supply fitted and a 120 km per hour top speed instead of 100. Until the 1990s, Class 1930 had little work in the south, being based at Entroncamento. Gradually, during the 1990s, the class took over all of the duties originally worked by the popular English electric Class 1800s. The locomotives are of a French design, dating from 1981. A total of 17 were built, and some have been sold on to Argentina. Turning up the thrash volume a little further now, as we witness this departure from Casablanca on 24th of June 2000. At Mezinash Alto on 17th of June 2000, number 1935 slows for the station stop, whilst heading the 853 Barreiro to Villarreal. The 1930s were fairly uncommon on freight workings. Here 1934 rounds the curve at Urique, having come off the Neves-Corvo branch with a train for Praias Sado. The same train leaves Urique station. We now turn to the Beira-Boucha line from Abrantes to Cavilla, where the class still work intercity passenger services north of Castelo Branco. This is number 1943 on the 905 from Lisbon to Cavilla on 22nd of July 1999. back on the Algarve main line and to Montenegro, just north of Funcera, as this loco heads south on 14th of July 1996, with the afternoon Barreiro to Faro intercity service. Class 1520 waits for the road at Pinyal Novo as this unidentified class member arrives, with the evening intercity working from Barreiro to Faro in March 1995. At Pinyal, number 1939 is in charge of the 1405 Barreiro to Faro intercity service. The date is 24th of March 1997. Finally, we turn to Casa Branca, as number 1937 restarts the Blue Train, the 1500 from Faro to Porto, which no longer runs, but provided a car carrier service, as well as conveying passengers. The Bombardier Class 1960 diesels were built in Canada in 1979 and totaled 13 when first introduced. Number 1961 was subsequently withdrawn after an accident in the year 1985. The locos currently work freight traffic mainly in the north of the country. Working the international container train between Vigo in Spain to Lisbon docks is number 1972. Seen here crossing the border bridge at Valença on 23rd September 2002. The same train passes São Pedro da Torre and is being waved through by the station master. Another major source of freight traffic carried in Portugal is cement. Here a class member heads across the viaduct at Douro with loaded flat wagons from Gaia to Dark. Another view of Tamil as the driver of 1972 gets the single line permit and heads off into the tunnel on 25th of September 2002. On 9th of September 2003 at Valença, 1973 has just crossed the border from Spain. Number 1973 departs Bucinho, The first wagons are empty bagged cement flats, whilst on the rear are wagons from the fertiliser depot. This rather unusual shot of 1963, with number 1972 on the rear, is taken at Regua on 28th of June 2001. Today the 1960 still work the majority of the services seen in this section. Finally, on 11th September 2006 at Parla, this unidentified member of the class is seen on return cement empties bound for Gaia. The Montreal Locomotive Works Class 1550 is perhaps best described as an updated version of the Class 1500s. 20 were built in 1973 for the Central Zone traffic to support Class 1800. They now spend half their time in the southern parts of the country. 19 locomotives remain in service and are all allocated to the cargo sector based at Entroncamento. We begin at Bar de Hoth, as this pair head the return 12:30 daily freight to Entroncamento on 19th of June 2005. Just down the line at Elvas, 2 days later, the same service needed only a single Class 1550, this time number 1553, for its rake of hoppers. Now gone due to plant closure, General Motors car parts traffic makes up this load as 1562 is seen leaving Mevao to cross over into Spain on 22nd September 2000. The locomotives used to have regular passenger turns in the central zone. Number 1559 heads up the Douro Valley at Belvoir, with a 9 o'clock Lisbon to Covilhã on 4th of February 1999. At Porto Alegre, this member, deputising for a failed Class 1400, is heading east with a train from Entroncamento to Elvas on 23rd of March 1997. A busy location is at the west coast port of Sines. On 30th of March 1998, number 1551 departs at 13:30 with coal for Suzelach. Finally in this section, we are just outside Elvas station, as the 12:30 freight from Bar de Horth to Entroncamento shatters the piece with 1558 and 1553 in charge. The date, 19th of June 2005. By far the most popular of all the Portuguese loco fleet was undoubtedly the English electric Class 1800s, a derivative of the British Rail Class 50, closely resembling the mechanical design of the ill-fated DP2. During the 1990s and into the new millennium, the class received a huge following from enthusiasts from all over Europe, but particularly, of course, those from the UK. Our first scene is at Barreiro in July 1996, as this class member accelerates away from the town with the 1935 interregional to Villarreal. Built between 1968 and 1969, the locos are taller, shorter and wider than the BR Class 50, but fitted with the same 16 CSVT engine producing around 2,600 horsepower, later downrated to 2,400. Sectorisation came in 1998, when the locomotives were transferred to the freight division. In their latter years, the class were famous for hauling the Penalva to Setúbal docks car trains, such as in this example hauled by 1808 through Pinhel Novo on 11th September 2000 with a 925 service. This is the 1425 departure from the Auto Europa car plant at Penalva, with number 1802 seen in charge on the 23rd of June 1999. On 18th of May 1996, the evening sun glints off the side of the 1935, hauled by 1808 from Barreiro to Villarreal San Antonio, seen here at Setúbal docks. From the 1980s, the locos worked mainly on the Algarve main line. In this view, at Alvalade, number 1803 departs with the heavy 1615 Villarreal to Barreiro train on 14th of July 1996. Typically there were 7 diagrams for the 9 surviving Class 1800s out working each day. Of the original 10 locos that were supplied, 1809 was the first and only member to be cut up in 1989 due to accident damage sustained 5 years earlier. Today 1805 is preserved as part of the National Collection, whilst the remaining 8 are dumped at Barreiro. This is 1803 at Tunes. Seen shunting at Tunes on 3rd of April 1998, this class member is ready to depart northbound with a run to Barreiro. In this view, number 1804 passes Garvao with the 0835 Barreiro to Vila Real on 22nd of March 1997. Aliosh Vedrosh on 11th of July 1996, number 1801 heads the 2005 intercity from Barreiro to Beja. This was the only booked daytime train for an 1800 on this route. Four days later, and again at Adios Vedrosh, 1806 rushes through with the morning interregional bound for Barreiro. Later that day, number 1801 was used on local services due to a driver strike, which meant they were the only diesels the drivers would take. It eases out of Pinhal Novo with a Setúbal to Barreiro train. On 29th of January 1999, the Portuguese Traction Group ran its first rail tour. This took 1801, painted in historic livery, to, amongst other places, Porto, a rare location for the class. The loco backs onto its dock at Porto's São Bento station. Another PTG tour took number 1802 through the streets of Coimbra on 28th of January 2002. Here the train passes close to the Astoria Hotel. Street running takes place between Coimbra A and Coimbra Park, where the trolleybus wires are high enough to allow full-size trains to pass.
Deixa lá, pronto. Esperar agora ver os sinais.
Another piece of rare track was during PTG's June 1999 tour, when 1804 and 1808 were used on the threatened Rigengosh branch. This was probably the last loco-hauled passenger train along the line before its complete closure. Turning away from rail tour duties, we're back on the Algarve at Ermi-Sardo as the passenger sector borrows number 1805 in lieu of a 1930 for the 6:35 Villarreal to Barreiro on 12th of July 1996. Our last section on the Class 1800s looks at their use on freight. We begin at Alvalade as number 1806 storms through on the 1530 from Sinesh to Lulé. The Estremoz cement was a booked Class 1800 turn. On 30th of August 1999, number 1810 leaves Vimiero on the route to Évora. This time 1805 was in charge, seen at Ever-a-Mont. Heading west again, we are at Aguas de Moura, as number 1807 is seen with the now withdrawn 0835 Lulé salt train on 31st of January 2000. Finally in this section we are at Palmela, just north of Setúbal, as 1803 heads south with the 1135 Paraçado to Lavradio, the chemical plant in Barreiro. For our final section, we have decided to turn up the noise level a little bit more. The freight-only class 1900s were delivered in 1981 by Sorfam and totaled just 13 in number. Today, around 9 or 10 locos are usually available for traffic, working trains mainly in the central and south of the country. Some examples are currently stored and serviceable. We begin at Barreiro, as this class member heads light engine to the nearby depot, after working in an all-passenger train from Faro. After the demise of the 1800s, the 1900s took over the Penalva car trains. Here, number 1901 departs for Setúbal docks with the 1545 service. The coal trains from Sines to Pigo power station were in the hands of pairs of 1900s up until electrification of the lines. One such working is seen here passing Zambujal. Snow in southern Portugal. In the wintry conditions, number 1901 heads away from Torre da Gadanha on 30th of January 1996. This was reportedly the first snow in the Lisbon area since 1953. Without doubt, the noisiest trains operating behind the 1900s were the coal jobs out of Sinesh. Due to the gradient up to the junction at Ermidash-Sardo, another 1900 was added for extra power, making 3 locos in all. We would like to thank you for watching, and we hope that you have enjoyed Volume 1 of our look back at Portuguese diesel traction by means of this special archive video collection.